Welcome to our deep dive. We're going to be talking about a period of history that's just jam-packed with, discoveries and innovations, all sorts of things. The Islamic Golden Age. I mean, we're talking about a time from like the 8th to the 13th century. And we're going to see how, the Muslim world wasn't just, keeping knowledge safe, but really, pushing things forward in science and art and philosophy.
It's really a fascinating period because, it kind of challenges this idea that, knowledge just progressed in a straight line from, the ancient Greeks and Romans right to the European Renaissance. But what we see this world really vibrant and interconnected, and ideas are flowing back and forth between cultures. They're building on this old wisdom and coming up with totally new stuff.
So it's not just holding on to the past, it's like using it to jump ahead. But I mean, golden ages don't just, kind of pop out of nowhere, right? What were the things that caused this like burst of, smarts?
One big thing was the rise of the Abbasid Caliphate.
Yeah.
So just picture this, this huge empire. I mean, it stretches all the way from Spain to Central Asia, right? And the rulers, they really wanted to make learning and exploring ideas like a big deal. It wasn't just about, throwing money at it. They really created this whole atmosphere where everyone valued knowledge.
So I'm picturing, bustling libraries and these big debates and, scholars from all these different places meeting and talking about ideas. It must have been an amazing time to, be someone who loves learning.
Oh, absolutely. And one of those amazing things about this whole time period was this big translation movement. So think about it. You got Greek, Persian, Indian, even Roman texts, all these works about philosophy, science, mathematics, and they were all very carefully translated into Arabic. So this opens up all this knowledge, right, to a whole new group of people. And it meant that scholars could take the wisdom from all these different civilizations and combine it.
That's a really good point, It wasn't just about, hoarding knowledge. It was about making sure everyone could understand it and, getting these new conversations going. I can see how that would lead to, some big discoveries. Did all this mixing of ideas help with, all the science that was happening back then?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it.
Mhm.
I mean, the Islamic Golden Age produced some of the most, amazing scientific minds, ever.
Yeah.
Like, take Al-Khwarizmi, for instance. This is the guy who basically came up with algebra.
Algebra. Man, I remember struggling with that in school, but I guess I can't really argue about how important it is. It's everywhere, like from building stuff to, computers.
Exactly. Al-Khwarizmi's work, it totally changed how we do math.
Yeah.
It gave us this powerful tool, right, for solving problems and understanding how numbers work together. And and his impact goes even further. You know that word algorithm we hear like all the time nowadays? Well, that actually comes from his name.
Wow. That's wild. So basically the foundation for like our whole digital world goes all the way back to this one mathematician from the Islamic Golden Age. That's quite a legacy. Who else comes to mind when you think of these big names in science from this time period?
Well, if we're talking about, people who really change things, we can't forget about Ibn al-Haytham, right? This guy was a pioneer. I mean, really a pioneer in optics.
Mhm.
He wasn't content just, thinking about how vision works. He did experiments. He made all these really detailed observations, and he basically set the stage for the whole scientific method as we know it.
So he was like the original, stickler for evidence, centuries before everyone else caught on. It makes you wonder how much of our, modern science, how much of that goes back to him.
It's hard to overstate how influential he was.
Yeah.
His work on optics had a huge impact, not just on, how we understand how we see, but also on things like cameras, telescopes, all these optical technologies.
It's crazy to think that, one person's like dedication to observing and experimenting could set off this whole like chain reaction of discoveries over centuries. And it sounds like there were even more breakthroughs happening, in science at this time.
Oh, for sure. Another person we got to mention is Al-Razi. He was a physician and a chemist, and he made all these groundbreaking contributions to both fields. He was a meticulous observer and a really prolific writer. And his work had a huge impact on how medicine was practiced for centuries.
Okay. Okay, you can't just leave us hanging like that. What did he do? What were some of his like most famous achievements? What makes him stand out even in a time when there were already so many brilliant people?
Well, one of the biggest things he did was discover sulfuric acid. And this wasn't just some random experiment either.
Yeah.
Al-Razi was really careful about documenting everything, describing, what it was like, and basically laying the groundwork for how it will be used later on.
Sulfuric acid might not sound all that exciting at first, but if I remember correctly from my chemistry classes, it's like one of the most important industrial chemicals there is.
You got it. It's crucial for all kinds of things like making fertilizers and detergents and batteries and even processing metals. It's hard to even imagine modern industry without it.
So another example of how the Islamic Golden Age basically set the stage for the technology and stuff we depend on today. It seems like everywhere we look, there's another connection to this incredible time period.
And we've only just started, really. I mean, remember, this was also a time of like huge progress in astronomy. Think about the night sky, right? All those stars and planets, it's vast. Well, Muslim astronomers were making these incredible observations and calculations that would end up influencing European astronomy for centuries.
I've always been fascinated by the night sky. I'd love to hear more about these astronomical discoveries. What were some of the big things they found out or the innovations that came from this period?
One of the key figures, was Al-Battani. He was an astronomer, and he made these super precise measurements of the Earth's precession, and he even figured out the length of the solar year. I mean, these were groundbreaking advancements that influenced European astronomers for centuries.
That's incredible. We often think of like the European Renaissance as the birthplace of modern astronomy. But it sounds like they were actually building on a foundation that had already been laid centuries earlier, during the Islamic Golden Age.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about, the practical stuff either. There was this deep philosophical curiosity, driving this whole exploration of the cosmos. Muslim scholars were grappling with these fundamental questions about the universe, like how does it work? How do the stars and planets move? And what is the role of humanity in this grand scheme of things?
Yeah. It's amazing to see how that scientific curiosity went hand in hand with like a philosophical search for understanding. It seems like the Islamic Golden Age wasn't just about, scientific progress. It was about like a complete exploration of knowledge and what it means to be human.
You're absolutely right. And this exploration wasn't limited to just the physical world, The Islamic Golden Age also saw this really lively philosophical scene where thinkers tackled some of the biggest questions there are about, existence, knowledge, and the nature of reality.
Ooh, this is where things get really interesting to me. I'm always up for a good, philosophical debate. Who are some of the big names in this world of ideas?
Well, get ready to meet three giants of Islamic philosophy, Al-Farabi, Avicenna, also known as Ibn Sina, and Averroes or Ibn Rushd. And these philosophers, they tackle these huge questions, about existence, knowledge, and what is reality, really.
Wow, that's quite a lineup. It sounds like they were really wrestling with some pretty heavy concepts. Can you give me a quick, rundown of their main ideas and why they were so influential?
Think of them as like bridge builders. They were really struggling with the works of these ancient Greek philosophers like Aristotle and Plato, interpreting them, expanding on them, sometimes even challenging them. And their writings had a huge impact, not just in the Islamic world, but also later on European thinkers during the Renaissance.
So they were keeping these ancient ideas alive and sparking new conversations across cultures and centuries. It makes you wonder how different, the history of philosophy would have been without them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they weren't afraid to think critically and to debate, which is really a sign of a thriving intellectual environment.
It sounds like there was a real culture of curiosity and freedom, intellectual freedom during this time. What was it about the Islamic Golden Age that made this kind of environment possible, where people could, question established ideas?
Well, there's this concept in Islamic thought called ititad, which basically means independent reasoning. It encouraged scholars to, really dig deep, interpret texts, and come to their own conclusions, even if it meant disagreeing with what was already believed.
So it was like, permission to think outside the box and push the limits of knowledge. No wonder this whole era was so groundbreaking.
And that spirit of innovation, it went way beyond just science and philosophy of the Islamic Golden Age. I mean, it also saw these incredible achievements in art and culture.
Oh, I've been waiting for this part. We've talked about science and philosophy, even math, but we can't forget about the art. What can you tell me about, the artistic legacy of this time?
Oh, get ready to be transported to this world of, these vibrant colors and these intricate patterns and amazing architecture. Think about like the Alhambra Palace in Spain with its delicate arches and its beautiful gardens, or the Great Mosque of Cordoba with its like forest of columns and these dazzling mosaics. I mean, these are just a couple of examples of the amazing architecture that came out of this period.
Wow, you're really painting a picture here. I can see why people from all over the world still visit these places today. They're like a testament to the, the artistic talent and the craftsmanship of the Islamic Golden Age. But what about other forms of art? What else was flourishing back then?
Calligraphy wasn't just about beautiful writing. It was considered an art form all on its own, and it was often used to decorate, mosques and manuscripts.
Hmm.
The flow and the elegance of Arabic script,
Mm.
it really lent itself to these intricate designs and breathtaking compositions.
I've always been, mesmerized by the beauty of Arabic calligraphy. Like it's
Wow.
almost like the words are dancing on the page. But it wasn't all just about, aesthetics, was it? Didn't this period also see some important advances in how knowledge was like recorded and shared?
Oh, you're absolutely right. And one of the most impactful innovations was how paper-making technology spread from China to the Muslim world. Just imagine, trying to copy and share these complex scientific diagrams, philosophical treatises, or even just, everyday letters on these cumbersome scrolls.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very practical or efficient. I can definitely see how paper, arriving would have changed things.
It was revolutionary. Paper was lighter, easier to carry around, and way cheaper to produce than parchment or papyrus. It allowed for ideas to spread more widely, and it made knowledge more accessible to a lot more people.
So the Islamic Golden Age wasn't just about creating knowledge. It was also about coming up with the tools and systems to spread it far and wide. It's like they understood how important it was to share information and make sure everyone could access it.
Exactly. And speaking of spreading ideas, the Islamic Golden Age saw the establishment of madrasas, which were these institutions of learning and libraries, all across the Muslim world. These centers of knowledge were essential for preserving and transmitting the intellectual and cultural heritage of the time.
It sounds like they were creating, like a network of knowledge hubs connecting scholars and students over these huge distances. What did these madrasas focus on? Was it mainly religious education, or did they cover a wider range of subjects?
While they definitely had a role in religious education, madrasas actually offered a wide range of subjects. They had mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and literature. They were really vibrant intellectual communities where students could debate and really pursue their passions for knowledge.
So it wasn't just about rote learning, it was about fostering a genuine love of learning and critical thinking. It's amazing to see how this dedication to education played a role in shaping the intellectual landscape of the time.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just confined to these formal institutions either. There was
Yeah.
this culture of intellectual curiosity that was everywhere. People would get together, in mosques, coffee houses, and even just private homes to discuss ideas and share what they knew and just engage in these lively debates.
Oh, that sounds like my kind of place. I can imagine those conversations getting, pretty heated at times, especially with, so many brilliant people in one room. But it also, it highlights the fact that learning wasn't just this elite pursuit. It was something that people from all walks of life could participate in.
That's right. It was a time when knowledge was valued and celebrated, and it wasn't limited to just a select few. And this spirit of intellectual curiosity and open-mindedness was one of the key things that fueled the amazing achievements of the Islamic Golden Age.
Okay, you've painted this really vivid picture of this era from its scientific breakthroughs and philosophical insights to its vibrant intellectual culture. But I have to ask, what happened to all this knowledge and innovation as the Islamic Golden Age came to an end? Did it just disappear, or did it continue to have like a ripple effect on the world?
Well, that's a great question, and one that leads us into a fascinating chapter of intellectual history.
Yeah.
The Islamic Golden Age didn't just fade away. It laid the groundwork for the European Renaissance. And in fact, you could argue that the Renaissance wouldn't have happened without the contributions of Muslim scholars.
Wait, really? So there's a direct connection between these two periods in history, which seem, so different on the surface.
Absolutely. Remember that massive translation movement we talked about earlier? Well, those translated texts, along with the original works by Islamic scholars, they eventually made their way to Europe.
So it's like this amazing relay race of knowledge with the baton being passed from the Islamic Golden Age to the European Renaissance. And it's a reminder that, progress rarely follows a straight line. It's often built upon the contributions of different cultures and civilizations across, time and space.
Exactly. And this cross-cultural exchange wasn't, just a one-way street. Muslim scholars were also influenced by ideas and innovations from other parts of the world, which created this dynamic network of intellectual exchange that spanned, continents.
It's a powerful reminder that knowledge, goes beyond borders and that progress often happens when people work together. And it makes me even more curious to explore how this legacy of the Islamic Golden Age continues to shape our world today.
Well, that's a journey that we'll have to continue in our next segment. There's so much more to uncover about the lasting impact of this era, from its influence on modern science and technology to its contributions to art, architecture, and even how we understand the human mind.
Oh, I can't wait to dive back in. But for now, we'll leave our listeners with this thought. The Islamic Golden Age was more than just, a period in history. It was a testament to the power of human curiosity and the beauty of cross-cultural exchange and the enduring legacy of knowledge that continues to shape our world today.
Welcome back. Before we jump back in, let's rewind a bit. We were just talking about how the Islamic Golden Age kind of set the stage for the European Renaissance. It's amazing to see how, those translated texts really acted as bridges between civilizations.
Yeah, it's almost like Europe was rediscovering its own, past through the eyes of Islamic scholarship. And it wasn't, just a passive transfer of knowledge, was it?
Yes.
Muslim scholars, they added their own interpretations, their own discoveries, really enriching that whole intellectual landscape of Europe.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't just, copying things. They were building on and challenging, existing ideas. One example that comes to mind is the philosopher Averroes. His commentaries on Aristotle were like super influential among, European scholars.
So he was kind of like a guide, for European intellectuals who were trying to wrap their heads around Aristotle's ideas. It's amazing how someone writing, centuries earlier in a completely different part of the world could have such a huge impact.
His insights, they sparked all these, lively debates in European universities, which really shows how ideas can, transcend time and place. But let's shift gears for a second. Would you believe that the Islamic Golden Age also had a major impact on something as practical as agriculture?
Agriculture. That's not the first thing that comes to mind, when you think about this era. But it does make sense when you consider, the vast territory and the different climates of the Islamic world.
Right, exactly. I mean, this era saw all these new crops being introduced to Europe, things like cotton, sugarcane, and citrus fruits. Just imagine a world without orange juice or the comfortable cotton clothes we wear today.
Suddenly history feels a lot more, real and relevant. So they weren't just scholars, sitting around pondering, these abstract ideas. They were actually making a difference in people's everyday lives.
Yeah, and their ingenuity wasn't just limited to the land.
Yeah.
The Islamic world was known for its skilled sailors and traders, and they made significant contributions to navigation as well.
Okay, now this is getting interesting. We often think of like European explorers as the pioneers of seafaring, but it sounds like they were actually building on existing knowledge.
Oh, they definitely were. Remember the astrolabe, this ingenious tool. It wasn't just for looking at the stars. It was crucial for navigation. Muslim navigators used it to figure out their latitude and to chart courses across vast oceans.
So it was like the GPS of the medieval world, guiding ships and connecting these far off lands. It's fascinating how something as seemingly technical as navigation played a role in, cultural exchange and global trade.
It all comes back to that interconnectedness, we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The Islamic Golden Age, it was all about, connecting these seemingly like separate fields of knowledge and applying them in practical and innovative ways.
It's a reminder that, progress often comes from unexpected places and that these seemingly, small innovations can have like these huge ripple effects across the world. But, all golden ages, they eventually come to an end. What led to the decline of this vibrant intellectual and cultural powerhouse?
Well, there wasn't just one single cause, it was more like a combination of factors. You had political instability, internal conflicts, and pressure from outside forces like invaders.
So it was a gradual process, like a weakening of the foundation that had once supported this flourishing civilization. Are there any specific events or turning points that stand out as particularly significant in this decline?
The Mongol invasions in the 13th century were especially devastating. Imagine, centers of learning, libraries being destroyed, scholars being displaced, and the whole political landscape being completely changed.
That's heartbreaking to think about, all that accumulated knowledge and potential just lost in the chaos of war. It makes you appreciate the fragility of civilizations and the importance of preserving, our cultural heritage.
It's a sobering reminder that even the most brilliant achievements, they're vulnerable to the forces of history. But it also highlights how important it is to learn from the past and to make sure that the legacies of these great civilizations continue to inspire, future generations.
Speaking of inspiration, I'm still blown away by the sheer number of accomplishments during this era. It's hard to even grasp it all. Is there any one discovery or innovation that really stands out to you as particularly awe-inspiring?
Oh, it's tough to pick just one, but the story of how paper-making technology spread, from China to the Islamic world and eventually to Europe, that's particularly fascinating to me. It really shows the power of cultural exchange and how interconnected human ingenuity really is.
Tell me more about this paper trail. I know we touched on it briefly before, but how did this seemingly, simple material revolutionize the world?
Well, before paper, knowledge was mostly recorded on parchment or papyrus, which were both, expensive and kind of a pain to work with. Imagine trying to share these complex ideas or scientific diagrams on a scroll that could be, hundreds of feet long.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare. It makes the invention of the printing press seem, almost insignificant in comparison.
Exactly. Paper was a game changer. It was lighter, easier to carry around and much cheaper to make. And this allowed knowledge to spread much more widely. Imagine, the impact this had on scholarship, on education, on the spread of ideas.
It's not just about the invention itself, it's about the ripple effect it created, making knowledge more accessible and allowing more people to participate in this world of ideas.
Precisely. And that's one of the most important legacies of the Islamic Golden Age. It wasn't just about creating knowledge. It was about making it accessible and fostering this spirit of intellectual curiosity and open-mindedness.
That spirit is definitely evident in their, scientific achievements. But what about other fields? How did the Islamic Golden Age influence things like medicine? We talked about Al-Razi and his discovery of sulfuric acid, but what other, medical marvels came out of this era?
Well, Islamic physicians, they were pioneers in a lot of areas, developing new surgical techniques and instruments that were really ahead of their time. They made huge advances in understanding anatomy and pharmacology and how to treat diseases like smallpox and measles.
So they weren't just relying on ancient wisdom. They were really pushing the boundaries of medical knowledge and practice.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about ancient history either. Even today, some traditional Islamic remedies and practices like using certain herbs and spices for medicinal purposes are being studied and incorporated into modern healthcare approaches.
That's fascinating. It's a reminder that there's always something new to learn, even from ancient traditions. It's not about clinging to the past, but recognizing the wisdom that can be found in different cultures and approaches.
And speaking of exploring different approaches to knowledge, the Islamic Golden Age also made some surprising contributions to the field of psychology.
Psychology. Now, that's not something I would have, immediately associated with this era. What were they exploring in this realm?
Well, Islamic scholars, they were really interested in understanding the human mind and behavior.
Yeah.
They explored these concepts like consciousness and perception and emotion. They even developed some early forms of psychotherapy, recognizing the importance of mental and emotional well-being.
Wait, so they were delving into like the complexities of the mind centuries before Freud and Jung. It's incredible to think how far back these ideas go.
They believed that mental and emotional health were just as important as physical health. And their emphasis on things like self-awareness, mindfulness, and spiritual practices, it really resonates with a lot of contemporary therapeutic approaches.
That's remarkable. It's that like they had this holistic view of well-being, recognizing how interconnected the mind, body, and spirit really are. And it's an approach that's becoming more and more popular in modern healthcare.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of exploring history. It's not just about memorizing dates and names. It's about uncovering connections and drawing inspiration from the past and gaining a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. We're constantly building upon the knowledge and insights of those who came before us, even if we don't always realize it.
That's a great point. We often think of, history as this thing that's separate from our daily lives, but this deep dive has really shown how the past continues to shape, our present in so many ways.
Yeah, exactly. It's all interconnected, and
Mm.
the more we understand about the past, the more equipped we are to navigate the present and to create a better future.
Okay, I'm ready to take on the future, but first I think we need to take a little break to process all this incredible information about about the Islamic Golden Age.
Mm.
Don't worry, we'll be back soon to wrap up our exploration and discuss what we can learn from this extraordinary period.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Islamic Golden Age. I feel like we've gone on this incredible journey through centuries of knowledge from all these groundbreaking scientific discoveries to these philosophical debates that are still relevant even today. Yeah, it's been quite a ride, hasn't it? But as we come to the end of our exploration, I think it's important to ask ourselves, what does this era really mean in the grand scheme of things? Why should we here in the 21st century, care about a period of history that ended centuries ago?
That's a really good question. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of all these amazing achievements, but what can we actually take away from all this? What are the big lessons that we can, apply to our own lives and the challenges we're facing, today?
Well, one of the most striking things about the Islamic Golden Age is this emphasis on embracing diversity
Yeah.
and fostering, cross-cultural exchange. I mean,
Yeah.
this was a time when you had scholars from all these different backgrounds, religions, ethnicities. They all came together, united by this shared love of knowledge.
It seems like they understood that knowledge really flourishes in an environment where different perspectives are valued and encouraged. It wasn't about, shutting out dissenting voices. It was about, engaging with them and seeing where those conversations could lead.
Exactly. And this open-minded approach, it wasn't just some, philosophical ideal. It had real results. I mean, think about the translation movement we've been discussing.
Hmm.
It wasn't just about, preserving old text. It was about making knowledge accessible to everyone, regardless of, what language they spoke or their cultural background.
It's like they were building this global library of human knowledge, breaking down these barriers and inviting everyone to join the conversation. It's a powerful reminder that progress, it rarely happens in isolation. It's through the sharing of ideas and challenging our assumptions and blending different perspectives that we can really push the boundaries of human understanding.
And this spirit of inclusivity, wasn't just confined to scholarship. The Islamic Golden Age also saw this incredible flourishing of art and architecture and music that drew inspiration from all these diverse cultural influences. Think about the the intricate geometric patterns that you find in Islamic art, or how, music blended elements from all these different traditions.
It's like they understood the beauty of cross-cultural pollination,
Yeah.
how different ideas and styles can come together to create something, new and vibrant. And this interconnectedness is another important takeaway from the Islamic Golden Age, isn't it? We've seen it in their trade networks, their scientific discoveries, and even in their approach to knowledge.
Well, absolutely. The Islamic Golden Age, it reminds us that we're all part of this global tapestry, this
Yeah.
this network of interconnected cultures and ideas. And this realization is maybe even more important now than ever before. I mean, in a world that's facing all these, complex challenges like climate change and poverty and inequality, we need to draw inspiration from the past and embrace that spirit of, collaboration and innovation and global citizenship that really defined the Islamic Golden Age.
Those are powerful words, but it's easy to feel, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of these global challenges. What can we as individuals actually do to make a difference? How can we apply these lessons from the past, to our own lives?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you're right. It is easy to feel kind of powerless when you're facing these huge complex issues. But I really do believe that even small actions can make a difference. And it all starts with being curious. Seek out knowledge and perspectives that challenge your assumptions and help you understand the world better.
So step outside our comfort zones and be open to new experiences. That sounds like good advice, for life in general.
Exactly. Read books from different cultures, talk to people from different backgrounds, and be willing to learn from unexpected sources. You can also, support organizations and initiatives that promote cross-cultural understanding and collaboration. I mean, there are so many NGOs, educational programs, and cultural exchange programs out there that are working to bridge divides and foster connections.
That's a good point. We don't have to, start from scratch. There are already all these amazing people and organizations doing this work. What else can we do to keep the spirit of the Islamic Golden Age alive?
Well, don't underestimate the power of storytelling.
Hmm.
The Islamic Golden Age was a time when stories, both oral and written, they played a huge role in transmitting knowledge and preserving cultural heritage and inspiring future generations. Find ways to share your own stories, to listen to the stories of others, and to celebrate the diversity of human experiences.
So it's about more than just, facts and figures. It's about the human connections that we make through stories. By sharing our experiences and listening to the experiences of others, we can build empathy, understanding, and this sense of shared humanity.
Exactly. It's through these personal connections that we can really bridge divides and create a more compassionate and understanding world.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey. I feel like I've not only learned so much about history, but I've also gained this whole new perspective on the world and my place in it.
That's the power of, exploring the past. It's not just about gathering knowledge. It's about using that knowledge to better understand ourselves and our place in the world.
And as we wrap up our exploration of the Islamic Golden Age, I think that's the most important lesson we can take away. This wasn't just a period of, great achievements. It was a testament to the power of human curiosity and the beauty of cross-cultural exchange and the importance of embracing diversity.
It's a reminder that, progress is rarely linear,
Hmm.
and that we often build upon the knowledge and insights of those who came before us. And by learning from the past and recognizing the interconnectedness of our world and embracing these values of, curiosity, collaboration, and open-mindedness, we can create a future that honors the legacy of this truly remarkable era.
Beautifully said. And on that note of inspiration, we say farewell, our fellow knowledge seekers. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of the Islamic Golden Age alive in your hearts and minds.